All right, everybody, peace. Welcome to the Sorry to Bother You show. I'm your host, Caudle, and I am joined once again by my co-host, Mr. Dre Pennington. Dre, how you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. How's everybody doing? How we feeling?
Good. I think everybody's feeling
Good,
good.
real good.
Dre, we have a very special guest.
I feel like you should introduce him honestly, because
Right.
this is you.
Okay, cool. Guys, this is my mentor, one of my brothers, my closest friends, my former teammate, one of the best basketball minds I've ever been around. Uh, the great Mr. David Baety.
What's up, guys? It's
Hey,
good to be here.
David, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, ready to talk some basketball, ready to talk some hoops, and just share some things that, like you said, I've been thinking about since I was once your coach.
Nice, nice. D, so just a quick introduction for those who don't know you. So you grew up in Florida, right?
Yep, grew up in Apopka. Grew up Apopka,
oh
Florida.
wow,
Yep,
that's crazy.
yep, about 30 minutes north of Orlando, and yeah, grew up basketball in the front yard and shooting all day. So that's what I grew up doing.
And you were one of the best players in your class, correct?
Yeah, I was all state for 4A and was considered one of the best wings in Florida and even in the Southeast at one point. So yeah, I had pretty good high school career.
Nice. And then you transferred, or you went to a JUCO in Wyoming, correct?
Yeah, I went to Central Wyoming College. That is a whole story in itself, but just an introduction. I went to Central Wyoming College, and then I somehow found my way to Southern Virginia University,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is history.
And that's where you
So,
go ahead, Dre.
so I'm sorry. I was gonna say so I just touching on the JUCO part of it, JUCO product myself, but how was it compared to JUCO versus going to university? Like how was that process for you?
So I went to so I don't so where'd you play JUCO at?
I played a JUCO in Minnesota.
Okay, so Region 9 in junior college, easily probably the top five best junior college conferences in America. I mean,
Okay.
there's in terms of talent, there's at least a handful of Division One players on each roster, without a doubt. Um, and so for me, going from junior college to Division Three, I'm not going to say that it was a step down because there was a lot of good players in our conference, like a lot. I mean, all Americans were in our conference, and they were studs. But it wasn't nearly as difficult. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I don't want to
Yeah.
sound like that, but some of the guys that I played with on my team in Wyoming are still playing professional basketball.
Okay.
That was 2012, 2013. So, and a lot of those guys went on to have really good careers, and yeah. So it was really good, but the conference that we were in, and Casuan can touch on this too, the Cap Athletic Conference is ridiculous in itself. I mean, there's just so many good players in that conference alone.
Oh my God.
Um, but either way, it was good competition, just
Okay.
different
That's good to
style.
hear.
So
Definitely. I would consider it to be the ACC of Division Three.
I mean, I wouldn't say that because we're not like. I mean, I wouldn't
That's
say
a
that,
big one.
so you know how there's like the Power Five conferences, like in Division One, right? And you got the Group of Five, so like the American and the Mountain
Yeah.
West.
Yeah.
The CAC was definitely like the Group of Five for Division Three, hands down. I mean,
Okay.
you look at Christopher Newport, Salisbury, York, Wesley, Mary Washington, Marymount. I mean, all six of those teams at any given day could beat each other. I mean, it was just crazy.
That's
So
tough. That's a tough. Honestly, that's a tough conference then. So I believe that.
yeah. So I mean, you look at. I mean, Kashan can tell you. Look at Christopher Newport. I mean, you got. I mean, what's that? What's Marcus? Oh my gosh, what was his last name? The dude
Mark
that.
Carter or something like that.
Yeah, Marcus Carter. I mean, this kid was the most athletic player I've ever probably been around, and he was at a Division three school. and it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was only like 6'1", 6'2", but
If that,
throwing it off the backboard, whole nine. Like, it was disgusting.
effortless. Effortless.
Hidden gems, man. It's like that sometimes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, D3 basketball, so underrated. And I mean, I could go on about that, but so many good players that just get slipped through the cracks because they're either underappreciated, or kind of like what Casuan was talking about before we went live, players that don't get looked at for whatever reason, but they got talent, like really good talent, and they just don't go to the school they're supposed to.
Absolutely. But so how was your experience then at SVU for you personally? We'll just all right, let me ask them. Go ahead.
It was, looking back, it was good. I talked about a lot about how much we miss being in BV, which is really weird because I didn't always enjoy my time there.
Yeah.
But it was a special place. And I know we always made fun of people who would say that, but it really was.
Yeah.
We got to do some things there that, like, we beat Christopher Newport.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened in the entire basketball history.
Right.
We made it to the tournament. Back then, when there was 10 teams, only 6 teams made it.
Like when you had to qualify.
You had to actually earn the right to go into the tournament. So, when I look back at those times, it was a beautiful experience. And, I'll always be really grateful for that.
Absolutely. So actually, dude, you have an interesting story though, because not only did you play at SVU, but you actually coached there as well, right?
Yeah. So I the year after I was done playing basketball, I had a year left of school, and for some reason I was talked into playing football, and that didn't really pan out the way that I thought it was going to.
I feel that. Okay.
I don't know what happened, but I think I was walking by one of the practices. I think it was like an open gym or something, and I just heard that ball bouncing, and I was like, man, I missed that. Yeah. Even if I know I'm not playing right now, I'm kind of missed my chance to go overseas, but I just missed being in the gym and being with, the team.
Yeah.
And, I prayed about it, and I said, all right, well, I'm going to talk to coach, and I'm going to see if he'll let me come on the staff and just do the grunt work. And he let me do the grunt work and a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did coach, and it was just for a year, but I mean, it was probably one of the best years of coaching that I've had in a while.
Absolutely.
Really enjoyed it.
D, I tell my teammates over in the UK all the time that year when you coached me was one of the best years I've ever had playing basketball, because I just learned so much under you. And, you were saying the head coach had you doing a lot of the grunt work, but you also handled a lot of the player development, man. And like when me and Rashay would work out with you, you really just taught us how to really integrate ourselves into the game and really fix our craft. And I think that was huge, man. So like, who taught you how to, to do player development?
My dad. And I think the cool part is that because my dad didn't play basketball.
Yeah.
So when he taught me on the outside courts in Apopka or in the driveway, I was learning it from a man's perspective that never played basketball, that only read books and watched videos.
Yeah.
So I was learning it technically.
Right.
So I wasn't learning it from like a skill perspective. I was learning it from a dad who wasn't really the most athletic individual. So he was teaching me how to do things the right way, even not depending on if I was athletic or not.
Right.
And so I was never really like the most athletic player on the court. Growing up in Florida, everyone's freaking athletic. So compared to the rest of these guys, so compared to the rest of these guys, I wasn't nearly as athletic. So I had to learn how to do things differently just to be effective.
Right.
And I think that's where I learned how, it's funny. I saw a quote from Jim Boeheim that said that the best coaches are the coaches that play at like Division III schools and NAIA schools because they aren't the most athletic. So they have to learn how to play the game the right way. Yeah. So then what do? They teach it the right way.
Right.
They teach fundamentals. They teach using how to play against players who are really athletic and still be effective.
Right.
And that's where I kind of, learned, as a player development side, how to teach players how to be effective, but not have the most athleticism.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where I learned that. And then, none of the things I've learned are my own thoughts. I mean, from Chris Oliver and Basketball Immersion to all the things that I see on Twitter and YouTube, I've learned so much from those guys. Like, yeah. I mean, I know you guys say at the end you talk about giving credit to people, but that's my mind from them, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, and then just continuing learning and knowing that I don't know everything right now, and continue to be okay with like learning how to play, and then then sitting back and saying, okay, well, does this work? Does that work? And then canceling out what doesn't work and keeping what does and bringing it all together. And yeah, so. And what's even crazier is that Casuan talked about, me being a part of the, player development, but a lot of people don't understand too is that I also did a lot of the recruiting as well.
Tons. And I wanted to touch on that actually, T. When you were at SVU, and think about, so throughout our time at SVU, there was a lot of talent there.
A lot of talent.
Lots of talent.
Lot of talent. And that is something that my last year with me, Kevin, and Anders, probably some of the best guards that have ever gone to SVU.
Yes.
And it was, and I think that just goes back to what Dre was talking about earlier. Like that's just Division III. Like people don't realize it, but that's just the way it is. Like you have these guys that are undersized and who slip through the cracks, but they can play.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I did a lot of the recruiting like you were getting ready to touch on. And, I'm not going to say that I'm the reason why y'all won 12 games that next year, but from developing half the team and to bringing in a lot of the other new players.
It speaks for itself.
I mean, it's just, I would have loved to been on that staff, to say the least.
I would have loved to have you on that staff.
So just a question. So like when you were recruiting, what's kind of some of the things outside of just basketball, outside of the basketball thing? Because I know that how some people like when they recruit, they look at specific things like how players sit on benches or how players like talk to the coach.
Yeah.
Like what are some of the things that you looked for when you were recruiting?
So I mean, Sean, I don't know how much you talked to Dre about like SVU's background and like the school itself.
He knows a little bit.
Okay. So it's a Christian-based school. It's a school that's, still holds the same values of the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, which is the church that I belong to. And so just think BYU, right?
Okay. That's
essentially what it was going for, right? Okay. It was basically BYU Virginia, if we're just going to be frank. So now my thought process, those other sports in the school, they wanted to only recruit kids from Utah, Idaho, Arizona, right? But my thought process was I just want to recruit good people that are going to obey the rules and that are gym rats and that have really, really high character, right? Like Casuan and I don't go to the same church, but Casuan's a great person. Like those were the kind of people I was looking for that were going to come in and you wouldn't really know that they weren't all the same faith, but they were just really good people. They were yes sir, no ma'am kind of people. They were going to class. They weren't cursing all the time. Like that's what I was looking for. Right. But I was also looking for ball players too. You know what I mean?
Okay, so, that's understandable. Yeah, trying to win. Yeah.
But character always. I rather have a team of really good people and be a subpar team. Like but I'd rather have that than have a team of really, really, really good players and just terrible attitudes. I cannot. Being once a terrible attitude kind of player, I cannot handle it.
So can't deal with yourself. Okay.
So do you think that you having terrible attitude when you were playing, do you think that affected the way that you coach today?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was a yeller and a screamer.
Yes.
I don't even yell anymore.
I can't remember the last time I've heard you yell, bro.
Yeah, I can't do it. I don't do it anymore. I can't teach properly the way I want to when I am fluctuating how I feel. I got to stay even kill. I got to stay even kill and be able to deliver what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
D, so let's go back to your player development, man. So what are some of the things that you teach your players when you're training them?
all right. Wow. So the biggest thing that I've picked up on since we've last trained together,
Yeah.
basketball decision training.
Elaborate.
Yeah.
So we as a culture, we teach moves, right?
Yeah.
We teach, crossovers in between the legs, and we teach counter moves, and we teach double moves, and we teach all these different intricate things that go into the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But I stepped back and looked at it, and I was like, okay, well, let's just think about this for a second. If me and Casuan are going one-on-one, and I'm getting the ball in a normal swing type situation, so the ball is coming from the corner to the wing, and I'm catching it.
Yeah.
That in itself is a decision.
Okay.
So have you heard the Spurs rule, how they say like you have 0.5 seconds with the ball? You have to be able to shoot, pass, or dribble, right? In that time.
Three things.
You got to figure out what you're going to do. Okay, that's great, and that's really a good rule, but are you teaching, depending on what the defender is doing, what you should do?
Okay.
So, for example, if a defender is more than arm's length away from you, that's an automatic pull. Automatic. Like, without a doubt.
Yeah.
If the defender closes out hard, 9 times out of 10, they're shading one way, to the left or to the right.
Right.
And depending on that shade, you're going to rip to the opposite side, right?
Yeah.
And then at all else fails, right? If you don't know what to do, just pass it. Just get rid of the ball.
Very simple.
Just get rid of the ball and swing it. And so about a couple months ago, I say probably about 6 or 7 months ago, I discovered this concept from Chris Oliver. Mm-hmm. And so I started teaching it to my kids. And what I noticed was that when they got into the games, they were more ready for what they were going to see in the game.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was I was teaching what the situations they were going to see in the game, not just teaching a move just to teach a move.
Right.
Like, I'm all fine for teaching moves, but if you're going to teach the move in the situation that it's probably going to happen. And this is where me being a basketball player helps me understand. I know when those situations are going to come.
Right.
So if you rip, right, you take a dribble and your defender stays with you. Now you automatically need to think counter.
Yes. Counter. Yeah.
If you don't have any type of advantage, so if your shoulders aren't ahead of the other defender, you don't have an advantage. The defender is still with you.
Yeah.
And now you need to have an advantage. And the thing that I've taught for the advantage, the most simplest thing, the Barkley move.
Okay.
You put the ball, you spin, you put the ball on your back hip, and you nicely post move right into the middle. And it's nice and slow. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick. And I'm going to pull this up and see if I can share this for you guys. But it's really simple. Let's see here. Should be under. But yeah, so I started teaching that more than teaching moves or ball handling or whatever it may be, because I didn't need to teach that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And D, it's funny that you said that, because I was telling Dre this like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were working out. We were actually working out on that move. We were working on, you get to the paint and you turn around and you get him on your hip, that defender on your hip, and you take a couple post moves down, 2 or 3 dribbles, and then you turn around that jumper. And that in that moment when you get that turnaround, you're not only saving your space, but you're creating time for your here it is. You're creating time for your teammates to relocate on your drop.
Bingo.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Hopefully this isn't going to lag on me, but this is really super easy. I started teaching this a lot, right there.
Yep.
You see how, first of all, he changes his pace as soon as he goes from 3-point line to about free throw line, right? It's quick, and it kind of goes into a jog because now he knows he doesn't have an advantage. Let's watch it again. Right? Now he slows up. Oh, he's going to put you on his hip right there. And now he's going to pass out of it.
Yes. So do you think that's more effective than getting to the paint, jump stopping, picking up your dribble, giving a pump fake, and then kicking out? You think it's better to just keep your dribble in the attack?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because a lot of the times, especially where I'm at right now, our girls don't really always move well without the ball.
Yeah.
So if you come to a jump stop, but no one moves,
it doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter what you do,
because I'll say keeping remember, I think for people who are guards, especially, one of the hardest things to teach to guards especially is learning how to keep your dribble alive. So I definitely agree with this type of move.
Oh yeah. And I mean, so, and matter of fact, let's see here. I've got a video of a girls Division III team doing the same thing. Let's see, I've got it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, it might be this.
If it's that video you showed me the other day, that team looked incredible, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, so we can just watch this because it's already downloaded. But, I mean, Villanova does this to perfection, right? So you see it again. Now he's going to put his defender right on his hip.
Yeah.
I mean, and the best part about this is that if you're in a 5-out situation, if you do this, now you're one-on-one.
Right.
You're one-on-one. And we're going to see it again right here, okay? Explode, right? Okay, now I'm going to slow down, get my man on my hip. And now we're just playing basketball. And so when I saw this, I thought to myself, okay, I can teach that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's in a real game. The players were driving, they don't have an advantage, so they use that counter move to make that advantage, and now they're going to kick or they can score.
Right. Go ahead.
No, so what happened was there's just a drill, and I just told my kids, this is what we're going to do. Like, I know we've been doing a lot of different things, but we're going to cut out all the crap, to best way to say it, and we're just going to go back to square one, and we're going to build a better foundation that is going to suit you better no matter what game situation you're in. I'm going to show you all the situations that you're going to see, and we're just going to do it over and over and over again.
Right. So do you think that, because you have a plethora of types of players on your team, do you think that move is effective for everybody, or is it only effective for a certain?
Absolutely. Could you imagine if you're in the mid post and you're, we think the tallest girl on our team is maybe like 5'11", right? Could you imagine if you're in the mid post and you're squaring up, you reverse pivot, you square up, a girl hedges to one side, you attack the other side, she comes back, and then you spin back to the middle, and you're just freaking probing. Just like, I mean, that's deadly. Like, what are you going to do with that? And I think the thing that I wanted my players to notice was that when you have the ball, you're in control
of everything, of all 10 players,
of everything that's happening on the court.
Yep.
So I broke it down to these 3 areas. You have your evading area, which I'll talk about with skill stuff, but that's when you're trying to get away from the defender. So you're in full go the entire time, right? That's your first gear, okay? Your second gear is like jog mode, right? You're kind of assessing what's going on, if someone's helping, you're kicking, right? Like you're just not really moving too fast, but fast enough that you're keeping your advantage.
Right.
But when you get to like 10 feet, 12 feet, it's pace time. You're probing.
Yeah.
Because when you get down there, players start. I mean, these defenses now are so good. Coaches are so, crafty and sending double teams to post players from different areas, and players are back tapping. Like, you got to go slow, or else you're just going to turn the ball over.
So do you think you even have to go slow on a fast break too? So say you have a quicker guard that likes to beat, multiple defenders on the break. Do you think they have to slow down too once they get into the painted area?
It's situational.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're in a fast break and you're going one-on-one and you beat your man, I hope you wouldn't slow down to let them come back and and block your shot. You better go finish off 1 foot and just go get the bucket, right?
Right.
But if you're in a 5-on-5 situation, when all players in normal situations are pretty good help defenders, that's kind of the layers that you've got to go down. You've got to be able to switch those gears and be able to really hone in on when you get around the basket, because, the ball is valuable, possessions are valuable, and you need to learn and you have to be able to accumulate points to win. Yeah. So let's teach them how to take care of the ball without saying, don't turn the ball over.
Okay. So you're not boxing your players in.
Right? Don't turn the ball over, Jones. Well, coach, you didn't teach me how to change gears.
Right.
So then, would you say you get certain players for your system, or do you create your system?
Oh, you definitely create your system around the players you have.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Yeah.
Definitely. You box yourself in way too much as a collegiate coach if you say, I want 1 big, 1 wing, and 1 guard every class. So what happens if you're coaching at South Carolina State, right, the HBCU in Orangeburg, and in Columbia, they got 3 really good guards that don't have any offers, and you can go offer every last one of them. I guess you're playing 4 out, 1 in next year, or 5 out. You're you're pressing the entire game. What?
Right.
Get the best players.
Absolutely.
And if you're a really good coach, and this is what has always bugged me about college coaches, how they always, like you're saying, they want to play a certain way, they want a certain kind of player. Why? There's no type of play, there's no type of way to play that's going to always win. Virginia had the slowest pace in America, and they won a national championship.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If you're a really good coach, you will find the players and you will find the system that best fits your team to give you the best chance to win a championship. Period. Right. You just always will.
And you know what, D? So in 2018, when they lost to UMBC, we saw the type of defense that they ran and type of offense they ran. But if you notice, they made adjustments that next season in terms of who they recruited, who they focused the offense around. They made a lot of adjustments. And so I think that goes back to what you're saying, great organizations, great cultures and teams, they adjust to what they have.
Absolutely. Got to.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I also have one more question, because we talk about this a little bit. So we know in college and high school, a lot of players are taught to go off 2 feet, right, when they attack the basket. But at the professional level, what I've noticed is that when you go off 2 feet, it slows you down. And so for us, it's easier to go off 1 foot. What do you teach your players?
Situational. I mean, it honestly is. In the game of basketball, there's no one way that's the best way.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to what you were asking about, are you teaching all of your players to slow down once they get past someone? Absolutely not. If we are in tempo, if we get the ball out of the net really quickly, the defense hasn't turned around yet, we are going and we are getting to the basket as quick as possible. Period.
Right.
And if you can get off one leg and you can get it inside and you go on a reverse with one leg, by all means.
Okay.
I think jump stops are are good when you are in a situation when you have to get a bucket.
Okay.
Right? Think shot clock, think you're breaking your man down, think you don't have an advantage, but you got to get the shot up anyways.
Okay.
Jump stop. Or, again, understanding your opponents, jump stop, pump fake, they fly, go up, foul, 2 shots, right? So, like, you know, it's good. It's one of the essential finishes. I believe that jump stop, power finish is an essential finish. It'll always be there. Yeah. But it's all situational. It's all about the defender that is guarding you. How are they playing you? Are they close behind you? Are they side by side? Are they nowhere to be found? Right? Like it's all situational. Where are you driving from? Where, you know?
Yeah.
If you're driving from the baseline and they're on your right hip, so you're in the left corner, yeah, you're probably going to use that hip to jump stop and then finish with your left hand.
Jump stop into the defender.
Yeah, because they're on your right hip, right?
Right.
So it again, like, and that's you know, I would teach you guys jump stops, right, all the time. But in reality, I should have just taught you situational things. Yeah. Like, depending on where the defender is guarding you, let's make sure you're good at all of them, and let's teach you why you would use them and why you would use them in these situations.
Right. So when you train your players, you're not only teaching them the skill, but you're adding the scenario with it as well.
Correct? Got to.
Right.
Got to. Or it's a waste of time. It goes back to what we first talked about. You know, like, my goal as a coach, whenever I'm a head coach, is to be able to sit down in a game and just watch my players play.
Okay.
Because I would have taught them the situations, and they would have had so many reps that it's easy.
Yeah.
I don't need to say anything. They know.
Right? So you think the best coaches, or not the best coaches, let me rephrase this. How do you feel about coaches that are yellers? Because I know we've talked about this before, but now that we're on air, I want you to, you know, say how you feel about coaches that are yellers.
Every coach is different.
Okay.
Every coach is going to, I think you have to be who you are.
Okay.
You know, if a coach is a rah-rah kind of guy, God bless you. You know, that's your style. There are Brad Stevens of the world who are just going to kind of fold their arms and just kind of pace the sideline. I think that a good coach realizes what their team needs in each moment.
Okay.
You know, so if we're on the road at SVU and we're going to play Christopher Newport, we kind of got to be mellow tone, because if we get too fluctuated in that hostile environment, it's an L.
Okay.
You know, but if it's a Saturday afternoon game and you just had like a week long of practice and you're kind of tired, you got to be a little bit more rah, because your team needs to get going, because you need to get this W.
Right. But that energy has to be sincere, right? You can't fake it.
It can't be like, you know, you ever see like Coach Williams, like at UNC, like whenever they need like a stop, he'll go like, yeah, right? Yeah. I'm like, sometimes he does it too much. I'm like, bruh, reel it in a little bit here.
Right. Because your players can pick up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to also remember, your players know who you are. You know, they're around you for a long time, especially the guys that have been there in the program for a minute. They know who you are. If you're not a rah kind of guy and you come the next day and you're like hooping and hollering, they're going to be like, what happened to Coach Baety? Like, that's not your swag. That's not your swag. It's okay.
Right.
You know?
Be authentic.
Yeah, I've learned that I'm more of a grinder kind of coach. Like, when we're in the summer ball or fall ball and I go into the huddle, I'm like, look, we got 8 minutes. Let's win these 8 minutes, every possession. That's just how I view the game. I view it as literally a battle for every possession.
Right.
So a lot of times I'll be on my knees, like, let's get a stop, right? But that's just my style. I just think, I know I kind of avoided your question because you asked me how I felt about yellers.
Okay.
And I know a lot of coaches who are yellers. My dad was a yeller. I just think it just depends on you and your girls or your guys.
Yeah.
If your players don't like to be yelled at, you cannot yell at them. You got to find another way to do it. Seriously, we have some girls on our team, and I'm not going to name names because I'm probably going to send this to them so they can watch it. You know, they love me and I love them. Hey, girls. But we have some girls on our team that if you yell at them, they might get really sad, like in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can understand that, you know, because I know some guys that if you yelled at them, they would get really sad.
Yeah,
Like,
that's very true.
So I think that's where, you know, you have to be able, like I said, you have to be able to know your players. And that takes a lot of effort to be able to sit down with your players and to understand, like, who they are, what are their backgrounds. Did they grow up in a home where their parents yelled at them and they didn't really like it?
Right.
You know, it's a whole lot of psychology that goes behind more than just situational basketball and X's and O's. But yeah, you got to be yourself, and you gotta know the pulse of each player, you know, and what drives them. And I think,
but that comes into creating that entire culture for your program. Because I know you've seen it, you might have experienced it, but there are some coaches that just stick to stuff on the court, and when you're out of practice or when you're not on the court, they want nothing to do with you, or they don't take the time to get to know you as an individual. But I'm pretty sure you think that it's important, though, right, to have that relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know 100% that the players that I coach play hard for me because they know I love them.
Yeah.
Our girls now, they know that I will go to bat for them for anything.
Yeah.
And I know they know that because I know that they will play hard.
Right.
And I think that you only get that when, like you said, you take time out of practice, because anyone can love you on the court. Yeah. Right? Like, I can show a player that I love them after they, you know, dive on the loose ball. And you should show them that you love them when you dive on the loose ball. But you should also love them when they get an A on their biology test. You should love them when they take out, like, I guess I'm coaching girls, but it is 2020. So, you know, if they go on a date and it's a good one, add a girl, right? Like, like, it's just, you got to think about, like, the whole person.
Yeah.
And you gotta have a good relationship. I will even go and say this: the teams that are really good, they have great off the court relationships.
Yes.
Like, their teammates hang out with each other. Their coaches spend time with one another. Their coaching staff spend times with one another. So they're all unified. I think when that happens, those are the teams that, honestly, that's how you can have a subpar team and it might bump you up a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're just super, super close, like, then you know, like, oh, that's my girl over there. I might not be the most athletic girl, but I'm gonna be crazy and help side right now.
Right.
Because that's my girl right there.
Right.
And I know she's a little weak on guarding on ball. So I'm gonna make sure I'm definitely a help.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely.
So when you recruit, are you recruiting based on how you feel the recruits coming in are going to gel off the court with the players that are already there in your program?
Oh yeah, visits are very important.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I know we've talked about this a lot, you know, when we were at SVU, but if I really like a player, but they come in and they don't really, like, have a great time with the team, it just might not be a fit.
Yeah.
And that might be really hard because that player might be really, really good. Like, they could really help our team out.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, my first year at Bishop Moore, where I'm coaching right now, we didn't have great team chemistry, and it showed.
Really?
It showed in, like, the tough games because they weren't locked in together. But and you kind of saw it this last year. Yeah. You know, we didn't have that great team chemistry, and it's those games you lose by, like, 9 or 7. Where, like, you should have got to stop a couple times in the second and third quarter, But because you didn't have that team chemistry, when you don't have good team chemistry, you don't communicate on the court.
Yep.
You don't play hard because you play hard for each other.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we can agree on that. You don't play hard for yourself. You're really playing hard for your teammates because you love your teammates. Right. And you don't want to let them down, right? But yeah, in terms of recruiting, that goes back to like what Dre was talking about. That's character. You know, if they don't have good character, because I can teach you the things you need to know. I can't teach you how to have good character. You either have that or you don't, because that was instilled with you when you were growing up in your household. Your parents taught you that. You had good teachers. Your family taught you that. But nothing against your family. But if you don't get that character, then you probably along the way weren't taught character or you didn't see it. Okay. Right. So if you don't gel with the team, it just might not be a good fit.
Right. So speaking of things that can't be taught, do you think that confidence can be instilled or taught to your players, or is that something that you feel they should have?
Oh my gosh. You can absolutely give confidence to a basketball player.
How do you develop it?
Absolutely. You teach them how to play.
Okay. I agree with this.
What are the 3 reasons why players turn the ball over?
Decision making.
Decision making. Yep.
Being tired.
Okay. Physical. And the last one is just, not knowing.
Yeah, not knowing specifics.
Not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Right? So if 2 out of the 3 reasons why players turn the ball over is because can be summed up to they don't know what they're doing. Well, then that goes back to what I talked about before, is teaching them how to play.
Right.
If you teach the person how to play when they get the ball in a swing situation, they're not going to turn the ball over.
Right.
Because you would have repped it so many times in situations in practice that when you turned it over to the game, well, oh my gosh, Coach Baety, we saw all this in practice. Yeah, that's the point. It's a games approach to practice.
Right.
You show them everything they're going to see in the game in practice, and then when they get to the game, it's nothing new. They've seen everything that you've given them, everything they need to see in practice so they can be successful in the game. And when you give them better ball handling skills, when you teach them the proper way to shoot the basketball and get a lot of reps, and you have them getting a lot of reps and concepts that you're going to be doing and on defense.
So let me ask you this, D. So do you think players get more experience from the actual training aspect and getting the reps, or do they get more confidence from actually getting game time experience, actually getting time in the game?
I think it's threefold.
Talk to me.
I think you can get confidence / experience from practice reps.
Okay.
You can gain confidence and experience through game reps. But the last part is you have to sit down with those kids and look at the film with them. You have to. And this goes back to your question about being a yeller. If you have a subpar team, right? If you are coaching a team that has not been successful, right? You can't walk in to those practices in the beginning and yell at them.
Okay.
You have to be the supportive coach at all times. So when you're in practice and they're making those mistakes and those games reps, that's okay. You got it. Next one.
Yeah.
In the game, you might lose by 10 or 15. That's okay. Next one, we're going to watch film. We're going to make corrections to these, and we're going to keep getting better. Okay. That has to be the approach, because if they are struggling with new concepts that you're bringing in, right? These are all new for them. Like this concept of training the mind for a game's approach and practice to the game, and then after, this is new for them.
Right.
So you take your time, You just keep explaining and keep preaching that we're getting better, right? I put that in the notes, right? Keep chopping wood, keep chopping, just keep chopping at that tree. Eventually, it's gonna fall down.
Right.
And I think that's when you see teams start to go on those winning streaks. But I also think too that those film sessions don't need to be 2 hours long either. It needs to be 10 minutes, and you need to pick a concept. Like if you're running a lot of ball screens, you pick ball screens to watch for that film.
Okay. So when you do film, are you focusing on one aspect in totality?
One aspect. That's it. I'm not diving into everything else. We're focusing on one aspect. And guess what? When we go into practice, guess what we're going to work on? Ball screens.
Oh my God. So just touching on like the culture that you were talking about, like, keep chopping, like you were saying.
Yep.
Like how would you build that type of culture? Because I know when you first come in as a new coach, like you gotta go in and you gotta like teach the girls everything. Like for your instance, like you gotta teach the girls everything. You gotta really build them up. Like how as a new coach do you do that, or how would you do that?
Well, it's funny because me and Kashan have talked about this a lot back when we were at SVU. But I think the first thing you got to do is you got to set the standard. What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
I use SVU a lot because that's the alum that I went to. And that's where Kashan went as well. But you're the coach at SVU, you come in, you want to win the CAC, or I think they're in the USA South now or whatever.
Yeah.
So you want to come in and you want to win the USA South. Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure even for the USA South, you have to qualify for the tournament. Okay. So you build it out. So you say, okay, well, really and truly, we want to win a national championship. Like that is the end all goal.
Right.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of steps to that, right?
Yeah.
You got to win. You want to win that championship. Well, you got to get to the Final Four first. Okay. Then you got to get to Elite Eight, Sweet 16, get into the tournament. Then you got to win your conference. Then you got to at least get into the tournament. Okay. So now you've labeled out several steps and you make this evident. I mean, I can't remember I think it was at my junior college. We had the rankings of our conference in our locker.
Yeah. No, I remember that.
So we saw the advancement. Like we were in last and we went to fifth and then we went to fourth and then we went to second. Like, so we could see the work was being manifested. Right. And so you label that out, right? You show them like, this is the goal, but we got to get here first. We got to continue to climb. And I think that's where the keep chopping comes in because, every day it's consistent. Like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get better. Believe in it. Keep working at it. When you win, even if the team sucks, like if they're terrible, like act like you just won a national championship.
Okay.
Act like it was just the biggest freaking win of all time. Because then now they're like, oh, okay. Coach said we just won a big game. All right. Maybe what he's saying is actually working. Right. Like, and so you just keep going at it. And I got that from a lot of teams in Division I use it. The most popular one is Georgia's football team. And Kirby Smart instituted it when he got into Georgia. And I mean, you see how good their program's doing. I mean, they're constantly a top 10 football team. But that's what you do with it. And then maybe after the next year, so let's say you made the tournament, but you lost, right? And then the next year, your goal now, we're winning the whole thing. Like we've already accomplished just getting in it. And I think that's where a lot of coaches, they lose that fire after the first year. But if you make it a physical representation, you're never satisfied until you're taking down the nets. Like that's where you're trying to get to. And
so let me ask you this though. So obviously each year you're gonna have a different talent level, a different standard for each team. I'm assuming. Is the goal the same every year, or do you adjust that goal? Okay.
Absolutely. Goal doesn't change.
All right.
Standards can't change either. Talent will change. but the standard at which you do things, the level at which you do things can never change.
Okay.
Because if you have a really good team, really talented team, but your standards drop, well, you might not reach your goal.
Okay.
Never.
But if you keep the standard the same way, well, that's how you get 20-win seasons every year.
Okay. I see. So let me ask you this, D. So are you treating every player the same on your team? Or, because the cliche is that, everyone gets treated fairly, but not everyone gets treated the same.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following that same mold as well, or?
No. See, I think that I think that every player has an ability to be really good.
Yeah.
And so in my the player development, I have it broken down into 4 stages. So there are different moves for the different stages.
Okay.
So like when you get to stage 4, I mean, we're talking jab, dirk, fadeaway, shot.
Right.
Like, but you've mastered stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Now we're really looking at, now as a senior, I'm looking at making you a pro.
Right.
So we're adding tips that I know that when you go to Australia or when you go to Denmark, that you're going to see, and your development trainers are going to be training you to do things like this, where you need to be able to pick it up really fast, right? So that's the difference. But when I recruit a kid, if you're coming in here, your expectation is to leave here, especially if I'm at a Division I school, you should be thinking WNBA overseas, easy. Get your degree, WNBA overseas, you're making money, you're improving your life.
Okay.
Every time. Because if I put the time into it, if I'm really going to be with you for 4 years, almost 9 to 10 months of each of those 4 years, so 40 months total.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
I had Caleb for 2 years.
2 years. And the change is astronomical, man. Oh my God.
And so if you have a player for 10 months out of the year, oh my gosh.
Crazy.
I would die to have that. Like,
but that's why it's important to have players that are going to gel with each other, because you guys are spending so much time with each other. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But yeah, I believe. So do you guys know what Radius Athletics is?
No, explain that a little bit.
Okay, so there's this really, really cool company. I can send you guys the article when we get off. But they came out and basically they did this series called "How to Make Losing Disappear."
Okay.
And they did one on skill, on athleticism, on IQ, and another one it's leaving me right now. But the one on skill is really pertinent to what we're talking about right now. And it basically said exactly what I'm saying, that every player has a capacity.
Yeah.
Every player can be really good, but some players are just going to be better.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got the LeBron Jameses of the world, the like 0.0001% of the freaks of this world that can just do whatever they want whenever they want it. Right. Like freaking Giannis and all these other guys, right?
Yeah.
But every player, no matter what level they're on, has a capacity to be good.
Yeah.
And that's where teaching the game in the way that I want to teach it is where that comes in.
Okay.
Now, I said there's 4 stages. Some people might not get to stage 4.
Okay.
Their role might not be to do that.
Right.
Their role might be just stage 1 and stage 2 and master the mundane. Just master the basics, and you can give me 10 to 12 points a game, and that's really all I need.
So while you're recruiting, can you tell if a player is going to get to that stage 4 or stage 2? Right? Okay.
Yeah. You just know there's some players that are just really, really good. I mean, we've got 2 girls on our team now that they could really get there. I mean, they're good. Like, I mean, they're really good. I think they're easily both Division II basketball players without a doubt. And they have one of them's got a really uncanny way to score when she really shouldn't score. You know how like some small guards just get up those layups
Yeah.
when there's someone that's 10 times their height, and they really shouldn't get those layups up, but they do.
It's like that. Oh my! Like how'd she do that? All right.
She's one of those.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, so yeah, you'll be able to tell, you know, those players that can really, you know, that can catch the ball in the mid post, and you just say clear out.
Right. So you've coached both men's and women. So from your experience, is it easier to develop, you know, men basketball players or women basketball players, in your opinion?
Girls all day.
Mhm.
All day. Boys are a lot harder to break bad habits.
Yeah.
They're a lot more stubborn to say, well, you got to also think, I'm teaching really basic things. And most guys want to jelly and they want to do all this other freaking nonsense that would never fly in any level of college basketball. Like, it's getting sent straight to the stands, like every time. I'm sorry, but it just is. But girls are okay with a jump stop.
Mm-hmm.
They're okay with a simple left hand outside finish, high off the glass.
Right.
They're okay with that, from what I've noticed.
Yeah.
I'm in a unique situation where most of our girls are between 5'5" to, well, actually, they're between 5'1" to about 5'7". So, so they don't really have a choice but to kind of listen, because if they don't, their crap's getting swatted too. So,
Right.
but from the time when I was in SVU training those guys and working with the team with developing them, actually, I would even say this: players who either are good and willing to work hard, or who aren't good, I say those are the best players to probably work out.
Really?
The ones who don't have the quote unquote talent like their peers are a lot more willing to break bad habits, because whatever they were doing wasn't working.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but those guys are hard to find. They're really, really hard to find in the boys section. Whereas the girls, it's a little bit more, because I don't know. I don't know why that is. It must be a genetic thing. And I'm not a scientist, so I couldn't tell you. But they are a lot more willing to listen and to at least try it.
Yeah.
And I that's the part I've kind of noticed. I've noticed that a lot in these last couple of years.
So with your training sessions then, or when you train your players, do you go in with the mindset that, okay, I'm going to experiment with this new concept or that new concept? Or do you go in with the mindset that, okay, I know whatever I'm doing has to work for these players because this is going to help them in their careers?
When we're in stage one, that's about it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking at jab steps, reverse pivots, front pivots, jump stops, you know, reverse layups. I mean, bare minimum. I mean, like, really, I stripped a lot of it and brought it down to, you know, where no matter what level I was coaching, you could teach it.
Right.
But I think it's more the latter. I think with stage one, they've got to be able to master these things, because everything else is just building off of that.
Okay.
If that makes sense. You know, because you can't do a Barkley if you don't know how to properly, if you don't have good footwork. Right. Because it seems very simple, but if you spin the ball out too much, that's a steal.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you don't use the right foot, you know, like it's kind of like a drop step, right? If you don't use it to kind of drop step and to, you know, keep that defender on your hip,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well then now it's not going to work because that's not the move. So yeah, those little things, and I know they seem like super simple, but I've come to realize that a lot of people don't teach them.
And you know, D, I think a lot of it is this new age of social media, and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. We see guys like, I'm sure these guys are great basketball minds, like Chris Brickley and other guys, the guy that runs Pure Sweat, guys like them
Yeah.
they're posting highlights of their workouts, right, with the players. But the thing is, and this is smart for doing this, they're not showing the details in the workouts, because then if that's the case, then no one would go to train.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
I wish Drew Hanlon, which is the guy that runs Pure Sweat,
yeah,
I wish he would show him working on just footwork with Andrew Wiggins and with those guys, because they do it.
absolutely.
They do, but it's not pleasing to our eyes, or to most of America's eyes,
Yeah.
to see someone practicing a jump stop for 15
for 30 minutes.
and that's good marketing for them, and bravo to them. And I think that's why I don't have the following that I do, is because my guys know that if you're going to work out with me, we're going to do things that kindergartners do. And you might think it's stupid, but I think you're doing pretty well.
I was going to say.
But most times, like, people don't realize like great players are just great at their like fundamentals. Like, they're great at them.
Yep.
There's nothing too crazy about them. Like, they're just great at their fundamentals.
Yep. And I use this example. Do you guys know who Kyle Guy is?
Yeah,
of course. Who's not heard it? Yeah.
Okay, so people are like, when he was doing his thing at UVA, they're like, oh my gosh, he's such a great shooter. And yes, he's a fantastic shooter. But do you see how quickly he gets to the three-point line, gets his feet set, gets his hips rotated to the basket, his shoulders are rotated to the basket? That is the skill. And I said that in the notes. Like, that's the skill. Shooting, freaking anyone can shoot the basketball. Lonzo Ball is in the NBA shooting from the other side of his freaking head. Like, anyone can shoot the ball.
right.
But in reality, you get your feet set, you get your hips rotated to the basket, you get your shoulders rotated to the basket, and you let it fly, period. Like,
right.
That's the skill. And I think what we're saying is that we admire Kyle Guy for his ability to shoot the ball, but what we should admire is for his ability to get his body turned to the basket so quickly and then shoot the ball.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
Not only that, but also his ability to read pin downs and read flare cuts. Like, people don't, if you don't play basketball, you don't understand how quick that read has to be. And you're in the corner and you're coming off that stagger to see what that top side defender's doing. You have maybe a 0.5 seconds.
Easy.
That read.
Easy. And it's so crazy because me and Jacob worked on that exact thing today.
Yeah.
Coming off that pin down and reading whether you're going to be, I call it sitting behind the screen, not flaring, because I don't like the word flare, because sometimes people really think they need to flare. So they go really far away, but that makes that pass super hard.
Yeah.
So sitting behind the screen and then curling it, right? And footwork that goes behind that, and those are things that are beautiful. Like, right. But as a culture, we don't admire that. We just say, oh, he's a bucket from the 3-point line.
And that kind of goes into my next question, D. We're talking about culture, because I want to talk on the basketball culture, and then we're talking to our Black culture. But talking about your culture specifically when it comes to your organization, what inspired you to develop your culture the way that you want it to be developed?
I saw something missing in the basketball culture that I think I felt like it was very prevalent when I was growing up as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
We admired players like Tim Duncan,
being fundamental,
David Robinson, Manu Ginobili. Like, we admired Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, like guys that Dirk Nowitzki is probably the slowest human being I've ever seen in my life. But he's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
And I don't think he did anything like unique besides the fact that he honestly really did invent that whole fadeaway jump shot thing. Like that was really his thing. Like he did that all the time, you know, but
Yeah.
I saw something missing, and I saw that, you know, there were a lot of kids that were getting a lot of recognition because they could dunk.
Yeah.
And I was like, that cannot be it. There has to be kids that are underappreciated, who are undervalued for whatever reason, that can play, because I was that kid.
Yeah.
Right? I was undervalued. I was underappreciated. I was overlooked. And I was like, I am going to help those kinds of kids. I am going to help those kinds of schools, those kinds of teams, which is why other than BYU, my dream job is a coach at an HBCU. That's where I want to be.
Right.
I want to be at HBCU and help one of those schools be a national powerhouse.
Right.
Because they're undervalued, they're underappreciated, they're underfunded, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so that's kind of where that came from, because I like being the underdog.
Right.
I don't like being the top dog. I don't like being the school that's supposed to win, because it's just fun when you're not supposed to win and you beat someone that's supposed to win. It's just way more fun when it's that way. And if you haven't been in that situation, I'm sorry. I hope at one point you are, because it's just so much more fun.
Right.
You know, and that's where that kind of came from. You know, it came from that, from always being the underdog, and then saying to myself, okay, you know, as an underdog, you know, you've got to work out harder, you've got to be smarter, you've got to do things differently. Yeah. But I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with not making $1 million coaching a basketball team, because who the heck needs $1 million anyways?
Contentment.
Like I really don't. Like I don't need $1 million. I maybe need 50,000.
Man, oh, okay.
But yeah, no, yeah, that's kind of where that came from, and I'm glad I've kind of been able to create this now, so that when I do go and play, or not play, my playing days are over, but when I do go and coach, that I'm able to create that culture, because I've already created it now.
Right.
You know, and I've created that in myself. And so it's not just an idea. No, I'm living it. Like I'm living and breathing it, like going, you know, to a place where they haven't won in forever, or they're not supposed to win, or no, like no, let's reverse that thought process. Let's go in there. Let's freaking get the job done. Let's do the dirt before you got to get into the game, and let's win.
Right.
You know? So,
and you know, and we talked about this off the air for quite a bit, talking about you being a young Black coach, wanting to coach in the NCAA. How important do you think it will be for you to be in that position as a Black head coach in the NCAA, and have those players looking up to you?
Oh man. That'll mean a lot. You know, the way how do I want to phrase this? I think that Black coaches in the NCAA are well-intended individuals. You know, I think Leonard Hamilton is a great guy.
Man.
Like, I think what he's doing at FSU, super underappreciated.
Yeah.
Like, and literally, you can't tell me it's any other reason because of the color of his skin. You cannot convince me any otherwise. You just can't.
Right.
Because he's doing things at a school that was never good at basketball.
Yeah.
Like it maybe had a couple good years, and that's probably the only reason why I know that is because my dad went to FSU. But in my lifetime, I mean, I've seen them beat Duke several times, in Cameron Indoor Stadium, which doesn't happen. Like, teams going in there to win is very rare, right? Till this day. And then for them to, the amount of guys that are leaving from their program now and going to the NBA, unbelievable. So you just see what he's doing. But I read a statistic, and bear with me because this is going to be a roundabout answer because I've been thinking about this a lot, especially with everything that's going on. But most, and I don't have the figures, so I'm sorry, but the majority of Black Division I assistant coaches serve as recruiting coordinators.
Wow.
88% of the players in Power 5 programs are Black. Now, when you're a recruiting coordinator in the Division I level, you spend most of your time on the road, going to high school practices, going to high school games. In the summertime, you're usually the one that's at like Disney and Vegas, Atlanta, Chicago, Boo Williams. You're doing your due diligence and you're going out. You're trying to find the best players.
Right.
Well, let's think about a normal middle of the season kind of thing, right? And let's say you're the recruiting coordinator, at Virginia Tech. I don't know, right? And you need to go to Florida to recruit some kids that are on your list. But you're in the middle of the season. Remember that, okay?
Right.
So you're going to be gone from about Monday afternoon to about Friday night.
Right.
Well, if it's like anything else, you've probably got 2 games that week, right?
Yep.
You've got 2 games and you've got probably 5 practices, 2 walkthroughs, and 3 normal practices.
Yep.
So 5 practices and 2 games. You miss the potential to learn how to write your own practice. You miss the potential to scout another team, to write a scouting report, to sit there and look at video, right? All while you're, probably making pretty good money coaching in the ACC, and you're out here doing your thing. But so now let's say you want to go and apply for, I don't know. Let's say you want to go apply for a D2 job in North Carolina. So you want to go apply for the school at North Ryan. Well, you get into there with the AD and he asks you, well, what experience do you have planning practices? Well, you don't have any experience planning practices because you were on the road the entire time recruiting your people to come and play because they trust you because you're an African American, and that's just kind of how it goes in our culture. We trust each other, so they're going to trust you to take care of their son or daughter if you're coaching girls. He looks at you and said, well, what experience do you have handling budgets for your basketball team? Well, you were never there for the away trips. You don't know how much the hotels cost. You don't know how much the charter bus costs. You don't know how to plan for the meals, plan for the tickets for the families to come so they can watch their son or daughter play. You don't know that. So now you're essentially stuck being a recruiting coordinator unless you can find a way to get yourself moved up the ladder. Very much so. Absolutely. Absolutely, it's institutionalized, without a doubt. And the coaches know that. So why not? Why would you show, if the head coach's job is to win basketball games and that's his job or else he's fired. Yeah, I'm going to probably hire a Black coach to go get me Black players so I can win a championship. Like, absolutely. And I would even say this. I'm not, I am under the, belief that we were all created equal. And I wholeheartedly believe that. We have obviously gotten to a point in our country where we have twisted it around so much that so many people don't believe that. And that is very evident through the actions that we see right now. But I will say this, being at HBCU, knowing the injustices that are going on, knowing that we have an opportunity to really create something kind of special, not only would I go to an HBCU, but I would hire Black coaches and teach them what I know. And then I would tell them, now you go apply for such and such job. I'll back you. My name is good. I will back you and say, you need to hire so-and-so. He's been under my tutelage. He knows what he's doing. He's ready. And you give them every opportunity to express that, to make that happen. And then I'm getting emotional talking about this because I've thought about this before. You know, most of my family went to FAMU. So I know HBCU more than anything. People don't know that. Like, I know HBCU, right? My grandma went to Fisk in Nashville. I know HBCU. My grandpa went to Morris Brown in Atlanta. So I am very aware of what's going on with HBCUs, but that's how you change the cycle, right? It's not going to Duke. You're not gonna replace Coach K, and if you do, they're gonna give you 3 years, and if you can't get it done, you're gone.
Takes 3 years.
At least.
It takes 3 to 5 years.
Easy. I mean, because you got to get your kids, you got to get your system. It really takes time. Like, I won't even say you wouldn't even with everything we talked about tonight, we wouldn't see maybe a championship team until year 3 or year 4. Easy. I mean, it just, when you don't cheat, it takes time. like when you, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but how does Memphis go from being trash? You know what I mean? Like, come on now. Okay. Anyways, so.
Don't do
but that's how you change the culture. And I think, you know how you start to kind of understand why you're here. You understand, like, you start to kind of get a glimpse of God's vision for you while you're here. When I started to gain all this knowledge, I was like, because I used to think to myself, I got to get to Division I and be a recruiting coordinator. That's how I'm going to get my marks. I'm going to get my foot in the door, and then I'm going to leave and go coach at some D3 school, work my way up. Now I'm like, no. I'm going to just keep on grinding, keep doing my thing, get to where I need to get to. And then when I've established myself and there's an opening at HBCU, if it's the right fit, I take it. Because I have too much to offer to try and give it to an institution that might not take it for granted. That will take it for granted. Excuse me. But if I go to, you know, like a Norfolk State, you know, right in the middle of Hampton Roads, prime recruiting area, I don't even need to get the best players. I just need you to just make sure that you're willing to work hard. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. It is. And I think a lot of the times the Black coaches, they want to get to D1 because we have painted Division I as this kind of holier than now division. Like, it's like the best of the best.
Yeah.
And yeah, the money's great, and I'm sure you're going to have a great living, but for me, there just had to be more. Like, I'm not just a recruiter. I'm not just a player development person. Like, we didn't even get into offensive concepts, but that's honest for me. That's where I really flourish. I mean, like, that's my thing, you know? And I just have a lot of information to just be labeled a recruiting coordinator, to be told that I need to go on a recruiting trip. And I'm not knocking the guys that are doing that. They might only want to be recruiting coordinators. That might be their only thing. But there's like 300 and something Division I schools, something like that.
Yeah,
there's too many schools for you to just say that you just want to be a recruiting coordinator for the rest of your life, when you have the opportunity to go to a smaller Division I school and make your own mark. I mean, there's probably some schools that have never had a black coach. Never.
believe that.
You could either be a part of history or you could make history. I'm more along the lines of, I want to make history. Like, when I die, I want them to say, David Baety did this, David Baety did that. He was the first black to do this. He was the first black to do that. That's what I want. And I rather get myself ready by having information like this, like what we talked about, what I've sent you, and what we've worked with, so that when my time comes, there's no need. I don't have to have a round table with my coaches and say, what are we going to do? No, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is how it's going to get done. Bingo. That's generational wealth. That's generational wealth as black coaches. And I don't mean that like black coaches, like we like the bomb or something. Like, no, like I'm not trying to say that only black coaches matter. Like, I'm not saying that. So everyone might think that I'm not. But what I'm saying is that there are really smart black coaches out there who I'm sure are just like me, who have a lot of knowledge, have a lot of work ethic, and who just want a shot. And when I get to my spot, my thing is to find that person, to listen to what they've known, to share thoughts, to teach them everything they need to know. Like, for example, another thing that a lot of people don't realize, if you're a recruiting coordinator, do you know that most assistant coaches go and speak at like functions, and they speak in, like clinics, and they go and speak to like country clubs? You can't do that if you're a freaking recruiting coordinator, because you're out on the freaking road. You can't do that. So not only do you not know how to plan a practice, how to do a scouting report, but now you have no communication skills. You don't know how to communicate with other people. Not only with other people, you don't know how to communicate with the boosters. And that's really what's the most important thing.
I would say that's big. That's huge.
Not only do you not know how to communicate, but that going to speak to boosters is its own dress code. Like, how do you dress? How do you carry yourself? Like, you don't know that. You can't roll up into a boosters event in sweatpants and a t-shirt and some Jordans. That's not going to cut it. And those things, but see, if you never were taught that, if you were never put in a situation to have that opportunity, why would you know? Why you would have no idea. And I think that's what I'm trying to help, for the next generation of black coaches, is to put them in a situation so that in a couple of years, when I look at them and say, hey, are you ready to go? Because I don't want you to be here for long. I want you to learn what you need to learn and go do it. And if you get fired and you need to come back and we can re-talk about some things, we'll do that. But I want you to come here, learn what you need to learn, and move forward so that you can continue to do great things. Because if you go to a job and you become a head coach, I might need you to hire my graduate assistant who needs a job at a D2 school. And I don't even think that's me being selfish. I just want to make it better for people. I want people to have a better life than they might have had growing up, or they might have had without using this to make that happen, if that makes sense. And
yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was just my thoughts on the whole black coaches and whatnot. And I think it's, yeah. Oh man, making me emotional, dog. Come on now. Oh wow. Oh man. Um, I know everything because of my faith. You know, I gosh, I'm lost for words. I thank my Savior every day for the knowledge that I have.
Okay.
Because I wholeheartedly understand that it is a blessing. I'm 26 and I know this much. That's not usually really normal. And for that, I'm grateful. Not knowing this much, but being able to articulate it, be able to
Okay.
explain it.
Yeah.
Like I could know a lot, and if I didn't know how to teach it, that would be pointless, right? But to be able to, you know, to be able to teach it in the way, I mean, the Savior was the master teacher, right? When you asked me about yelling, did the Savior ever yell? Only once when he was leaving the temple, right? Yep. Okay. So when he was teaching the Sermon on the Mount, was he yelling? No. When he was teaching the disciples at the Last Supper, was he yelling? Nah. He should have been. He was about to freaking crucify him.
God.
He should have, right? Like, gosh dang it. Save me. Don't you see what's happening? But he didn't. And I think once I really be able to understand who he was and understand like how uh, important he was in my life, then it helped me understand, okay, how can I teach and coach with the Spirit? Right? How can I get my message across without demeaning, without yelling, without criticizing in a way that they're going to know I'm serious, but that I'm uplifting them at the same time? Right? I was just reading, my gosh, in John the other day about, how the Spirit teacheth all things, right? And the closer that I found, this is so crazy, the closer that I found myself getting closer to Jesus, I found this wave of knowledge just like coming over. And like little by little, things were starting to be unraveled. Bingo, right? And it wasn't all at once, but it was just, little by little, line by line, right? And that's when I really started to be able to really start to put the pieces together. And um, because of the Savior, I have a growth mindset. Because of the Savior, I know every player has a capacity to be good, right? Because of the Savior, I understand the concept of chopping wood, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't become Christ-like overnight, right? It's the same thing. I realized that learning the gospel and learning basketball were the same thing. And then once I realized that learning the gospel day by day was the same thing as learning basketball day by day, it changed my life. I stopped getting upset that I didn't know everything about basketball and just being okay with what I knew at that time and then seeing how it fit into my life and into my coaching, philosophy. And if it didn't, I just pushed it away. That's okay. I knew something else was going to come. As long as I was still doing what I was supposed to be doing by loving him, loving people, and, and doing my best to try to be the best disciple of Jesus Christ that I could be. And when I did that, everything else started to just come nice and slow. but it came, and that's why I have no other words but to be grateful. So
Great to hear, honestly.
yeah, and and I talked about it, but one of the verses that I sent, is in the Book of Mormon, and in Mosiah chapter 4, King Benjamin says this, and this is why I teach the way that I teach. This, when you hear these words, think about how much it applies to basketball. It's so crazy. And see that all these things are done in wisdom and in order. Think 4 stages, right? For it is not requisite that a man should run faster than he has strength. And again, it is expedient that he should be diligent, that thereby he might win the prize. Therefore, all things must be done in order. What? Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. What are you talking about? Like, I was like, he knows. Like, what? You kidding me? Like, everything has to be done in order. And it goes back to what Dre was talking about how do you keep the guys focused on chopping wood? That's it. It's just, you tell them, look, it's going to happen, but these stages have to come first. We're going to lose some games. It's going to happen. But you got to come in the next day with the good attitude, with ready to work, and we're just going to keep getting better. And we're going to keep getting better. And eventually, we're going to be the best. And you just got to believe it. Like,
I was going to say, I definitely believe in that because when I was in high school, my coach, he had like some of the same philosophies as you did. We started off like sophomore year, junior year, we got even better. Senior year, we had one of the best teams we could have. So I definitely believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's just how it goes no matter what, and when I realized that, and when you realize that, every person can get better and every player can get better. And I mean, think about that as a player. If you imagine like your coach, no matter where you were level wise or talent wise, if he believed in you and knew that your best was yet to come, wouldn't you show up every day to play for him?
Yeah.
Like, and I just think to myself, like, why not be that coach? Why not be that person for some kid, from Liberty City in Miami that doesn't know where his dad is, that mom works 3 jobs? Yeah, come here. Come here. I'll take care of you. I'll help you have a better life. Help you get a degree so that if you don't make the pros, you have a degree and you can go start a life and not have to worry about getting shot at 2 a.m. or getting shot in a drive-by because you just happen to live in the wrong neighborhood because of the color of your skin and you can't afford anywhere else. Yep.
Yeah.
And not like going out there. I don't do the protesting. I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking, how can I help generations? Yeah, you can protest and that's great. And if you are doing that, more power to you. But I'm thinking, how can I change lives by using the tools that I've been given? And I can't think of anything else but what I've got.
Thank you, honestly.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys letting me be here and let me talk you guys' ears off for.
No, you're fine, man. Like we love great basketball minds. We love to hear different philosophies, and just like he had said before, we had talked. He said that some things are going to be different, but he's like, you'll probably like a lot of the things he talked about. So I definitely like you can ask Kashawn. One of the favorite things I love watching is a Villanova game, just because I love how their offense works and everything like that, and their players.
Yeah, yeah, it's really good stuff. Really simple, but
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. Still shout out same people. Shout out B Remby, man. Still one of my friends, man. I support my guy. I'm really hoping that, things working out for him. But everybody go get his clothing. Obviously, this is one of the tats. Love it. And, eventually I will try to have Casuan sporting the hat also. Oh, my God.
Yeah, just a couple. I want to give a shout out to my wife, man, Valerie. She's we got married when I was 20 and she was 19. So she is, huh? Huh?
Congratulations, man.
Oh, yeah, you're too kind. Yeah, so she's awesome though. She is the way better half of me. But no, she you know, when I have an idea about basketball, I bounce it off her, and she's like my assistant coach. It's funny to see, and it's funny because when we'll be in like a game, she's more serious than I am. I mean, she's just locked in, and that's I couldn't have asked for a better wife, especially with knowing that she knows that I want to be a basketball coach, and she's all dialed in to literally any video, any podcast that I've listened to, Chris Oliver, John Lienzo, oh my gosh, Half Court Hoops, Randy over at Radius Athletics. Oh my gosh, like everything that I have, I owe to you guys. Shot Tracker, where I've learned all my analytics data. Oh my gosh, to you guys, like they have so much knowledge on reversals and paint touches and the importance of that, and it's too much to even get in this slot, like but yeah, nothing that I talked about tonight was original. It's all come from some person that had an idea, put it out there, and I saw it and I like it. And so to those guys, thank you. Yeah, and to Kashawn, one of my best friends, one of my boys, to listening to me at midnight in the library at SVU in the wintertime when it's cold as crap.
Oh, my God.
Watching video nonstop in the library, to chopping it up on the boards, looking at plays, looking at offenses, looking at defenses, what works, what doesn't work, looking at percentages and all the analytics, to trusting me as probably one of the first people that worked out with me besides Caleb and James. And to seeing where you are now, thank you for trusting me, and I'll never not be grateful for that. So thank you.